Uni's supposed to be the best time of your life, everyone tells you. But deep down, that's not how you feel. Maybe you're thinking, after I finish this exam, after I finish this assignment, then I'll be free, then I'll be happy. Or maybe once I get that good job, once I get some money, once I finally get a girlfriend, then I'll be so happy. Like, bro, you're thinking about this in the wrong way. Yes, these things will improve your life. They are really great things. But if you're struggling to even show up to class, to do the assignments, to even getting out of bed in the morning, that's the first thing that we need to tackle. So if you're struggling, bro, I completely understand you. I'm a final year engineering student and I've seen the lows and the highs of engineering itself. So this is everything that I've learned to live like a happy, fulfilled life and make the most out of these years, right? Make the most out of your uni years. You don't have to study STEM and be depressed. You don't have to be pulling your hair out when you're doing engineering. The first thing that I'd like you to understand is that mental health is so important because it dictates your actions. Mental health is not just like, oh, you feeling depressed and, oh yeah, I don't feel like killing myself, so my mental health is okay, right? No, a lot of the problems that we think are problems with ourselves, like procrastination, like studying, like the fact that we can't manage our time properly, a lot of it comes down to poor mental health, genuinely comes down to poor mental health, right? So for example, let's say for studying, right? Let's say for studying, you struggle to study hard for your exam. And so you've watched all these productivity videos and, you tried the Pomodoro technique and all that kind of stuff, but nothing ever worked. But the thing is, maybe when you try and study or when you're a little bit bored, you get kind of overwhelmed with thoughts. You get overwhelmed with all these negative thoughts of, there's a flashback to this time and it's so much for you to handle, right? And it feels like so much and it feels like fatiguing. And so what do? Naturally, you want to distract yourself from that. And you distract yourself by grabbing your phone. I don't have a phone, but you distract yourself by grabbing a phone or playing video games to distract yourself from that kind of emotion. That need for escapism is a sign of poor mental health. Like, I remember when I used to study, right? When I used to try and set times to study, I would set times to study and I would time block everything, right? But when the time came, I just wouldn't want to study. I just wouldn't feel like it. It would feel so hard and it requires so much willpower. I would still be stuck on my phone, right? So in a weird way, to get over that addiction, I actually first started to improve my mental health first. I improved my mental health first and then allowed me to easily study, to more be able to control myself. Because I finally felt in control. I finally felt like I wasn't so reliant on my phone. I didn't feel like I needed it as much. Improving mental health is a big component of my course below, especially if you're an engineering student. It can help you even more than this video. Have a look at that, top link in the description below. This really important thing that I want to tell you about is mental health is genuinely fixable. Mental health can really be within your control because I think there's a big narrative out there which is talking about mental health and talking about how it's like this big monster, right? How, it's so vague and people don't really understand it at all. But I think it's quite simple. It's genuinely quite simple. You can just think about it in terms of inputs and outputs, right? So if you think about your physical health, right? If you input like a lot of junk food, if you eat a lot of junk food, if you have really bad habits, if you don't exercise, well, what's going to happen, right? You're going to be unhealthy physically. You're going to feel like you're going to start gaining weight. You're going to feel lethargic. You're going to feel like you're in poor health. That action, that result came from the inputs, which are bad inputs, right? And so for mental health, why can't we think of something similar? What are you inputting which is causing some of these bad outputs, right? What are you doing? What are your habits, right? Let's be real. Maybe you scroll for 5 hours a day. Maybe you play video games all day. Maybe you stay up until 2 a.m. Let's be real, right? These things are contributing to your bad mental health, right? You spend all day doing nothing, right? Let's be real. If you look at yourself from a third person's perspective, would you look like a person who's very fulfilled, who's very, very happy, right? Maybe not, right? And, the first step is acknowledging that, and first step is being able to acknowledge that and accept that. But But the great thing about this is that we can actually start to change it, right? We can actually start to change some of these inputs. If you start to change these inputs so they become more healthy, you start to get better sleep, for example. You start to have more time away from the phone and being outside. It'll result in better mental health, right? Like, I genuinely believe that nobody is built to be depressed, right? Nobody is born being depressed. Like, there's this excuse about like, oh yeah, there's like a signal inside my brain which doesn't work and so I need antidepressants. Like, no motherfucker, you scroll for 5 hours a day, like shut up. A lot of these inputs can be changed and they can be in your control, right? Even if it's something in real life that you can't change, like maybe let's say your job or your studies, for example, right? You have the study that you need to do and, right now you hate it, you don't like it, it's annoying, all that kind of stuff, right? But if you have some like kind of mindset shifts, if you maybe think about the positives, you focus on, what a joy it is to be able to, see your friends while you're at uni, for example, right? You start to think in terms of some of the positives. You're changing that input so that it becomes a more positive input, right? And so just slightly by doing that, you're starting to reframe your mind in like a more positive way. You'll start to generate more positive thoughts, right? And it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. And so that was something as simple as that, as changing a way that you think about something can improve your mental health. Having great mental health is not that complicated. You just need to do some of the right actions. Like, I think the only reason why mental health issues are so prevalent is just because we're all just doing the wrong thing, right? We're all just scrolling all day. We're stuck on the internet. We're stimulating ourselves the entire day. And we have no time to just live with our thoughts, right? So that's why I think a lot of us struggle with mental health. And so what actually happens when you start to improve your mental health? Visualize or imagine like a person who has great mental health, who's always pretty happy, right? Who's fulfilled and happy as well. Like, do you think you would struggle to learn things? Do you think you'd struggle to study? Do you think you'd struggle to exercise or go to bed on time, right? No, probably not, right? You'd probably be happy to study, be happy to learn new things, right? That's the dream that I want for you. Ever since I've improved my mental health, like my entire life has just improved, right? It's just genuinely everything about my life has improved. I've managed to improve my mental health, but most of my life is actually about the same. I still have like a similar daily routine. I spend less time on my screens nowadays, but my life is good because of a couple of these habits which have improved my mental health, which I do consistently. So let's talk about these habits, right? So what we need to do is actually start to reduce these habits which are bad for us, right? The inputs, right? We need to reduce like our screen time. We need to reduce some of, video games or whatever, right? We need to reduce those and start to replace them with good habits and also incorporate new good habits, right? So basically, we need to start to replace them with better habits, right? Things that are less overly stimulating, right? And one of the good ways to understand replacing these habits is understanding why you have this desire. Why do you have this desire to play video games all the time, right? For example, right? Because some people can play video games and not be addicted, but other people can't, right? So why do you have this desire? Why do you have the desire to scroll on your phone all day? Is it because you feel lonely? Or, is it because you feel bored, right? There's usually some kind of emotional need that this fulfills, right? For example, video games. If you're like really grinding up in video games, it feels good, right? It feels great to level up and to have that bit of status, I'm plat in League of Legends or whatever, right? And so you wear that as like a little bit of a badge of honor, right? Even though in real life, nobody gives a fuck. You build that sense of achievement from video games. And so what if we could hijack that system and actually find a better habit to find a sense of achievement, right? Maybe you could start playing, chess, for example. You could start to exercise a little bit more and achieve more in exercise, right? That's the thing that I found in my life. I replaced video games with like going to the gym and weightlifting, right? And that's how I built my body because it felt like a bit of a game. I just needed to grind harder and harder, and I actually started to really enjoy that grind, right? So that can be part of finding core desires and trying to replace them. If you feel bored all the time, maybe you could replace it with like reading, for example. I know, which would be crazy, right? I know it's crazy. I'm basically recommending you to read. But in this process, if you start to slowly reduce it and start to replace these habits with more positive, like delayed gratification habits, ones which are less stimulating for you, you're gonna start to feel the difference, right? Every little bit of progress should be celebrated. It's because it's like a small win. It's a good win, right? You know, maybe you woke up at 8 a.m. instead of like 10 a.m., right? That's a win, right? That's a good thing. If you started to regularly wake up at 8 a.m. and you started to go to bed at 12 instead of like 3 a.m., right? That's still a win inside of my books, right? That's still an improvement. Make sure you celebrate some of those wins. And like, honestly, this kind of thing takes a while to really undo those habits, right? Because I'm talking about like a whole lifestyle shift right here, right? But if you take it step by step and you implement some of these really hard-hitting habits, then slowly but surely you will feel the difference. And so what are the main habits which have improved my mental health? So the main habits which have improved my mental health is obviously, some of the ones that you know, like for example, going outside and something like that, exercising, going to the gym, right? But also two things which I incorporate to my morning routine, which is gratitude and meditation. These are the things that I've incorporated into my morning routine, which I do every single day, which genuinely just sets up my life to be so good. It just sets up the rest of my life to be, honestly, just happier, just genuinely happier, right? Like every morning when I wake up, I do some meditation and I write some things that I'm grateful for. That simple habit has allowed me to really change, honestly, it's kind of rewires your brain in a weird way. It feels like you're rewiring your brain. A lot of people think meditation is weird or gay or whatever, right? But meditation is really just trying to keep focus on something. And you sit there and you just sit there with your thoughts and you just try and focus on something. Naturally, you'll drift away and naturally you'll think about something else. But as long as you keep trying to focus back onto your breath, for example, you'll start to build that kind of focused, calm energy as well. And I'll tell you what life is like when you start to meditate more. When you start to meditate more, you'll start to notice the thoughts inside of your brain. You'll start to notice them better, right? You'll start to be more aware of them. So for example, if I'm studying, right? Let's say I'm trying to study. You'll sometimes inside of your brain, I'll create like a thought. It'll create like a random thought, like, oh yeah, I wanted to check out if that one YouTuber still uploaded a video. Oh, I wonder if Sarah replied to me. Or you'll generate all these thoughts, right? And what I found is as you've meditated more, you become more aware of that and you're just like, that's a thought, right? Instead of having to act on that, instead of immediately getting the thought of like, oh, did Sarah reply to me, right? You going and checking Instagram and going off track from your studying. Well, actually, you can just think like, oh yeah, that's a thought. But actually, you just refocus back onto what's important. Like that kind of good voice in you, the strong voice in you, the willpower voice in you, it becomes stronger. The good part of your brain, the angel and the devil, the good part of your brain, it just becomes stronger and more able to handle these kind of distractions. For gratitude is simply just writing down some things that you're grateful for. It's like thinking about positive things, thinking about good things that have happened in the past day, for example. And it really just helps slowly shift your minds towards a positive, right? You start to think more in the positive, you start to force more positive thoughts. And slowly but surely, it will start rewiring part of your brain to start to think in terms of a positive. I have even more detailed explanations in my other videos, but also in my course below. Have a look at that, top link. But here are some action steps which you can take away from this video. So here's my own personal routine that I actually used to start to improve my mental health every single day. So basically what I did for my morning routine was literally just a consistent wake up time. So I woke up at the same time every day and I meditated and then I did some gratitude journaling and I started reading. And so an easy one that you could honestly, anyone could apply, right? Anyone could apply this. It's just like having consistent wake up time, having like, this is for you to set like 7 a.m. or let's say 8 a.m., right? And then you wake up, you meditate, you set a timer and you meditate for like 5 minutes, something like that, 3, 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you're feeling more advanced, right? And then you just write down 5 things that you're grateful for. I am grateful for this. I'm grateful for this. My mum cooking for me. I'm grateful for that compliment someone gave me or whatever. Doing something as simple as that can really help set the ball rolling. It's all about these little steps that you can implement that really start to change the rest of your life, right? Because 5 minutes of meditation isn't much. It doesn't feel like much, but slowly but surely, if you start to do this consistently, you start to do this, you know, like let's say 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, right? You start to do it more and more. This will help set the ball rolling and start create that momentum to really help change the rest of your life. Genuinely, I feel like this is a really little change, but it's made my mind so much calmer and so much better and so much happier. I don't even know how it's so good, honestly. And you start to combine that with like the other habits like exercise and removing some of the bad habits. I'm sure you'll be on the right path. But all it takes is that little bit of action plan. Consistent wake up time, meditation, and gratitude. So that's the first thing that you can do to really set the ball rolling. So don't wait for a fix or like takes like fucking stupid antidepressants or whatever. These are the small steps which will truly help get the ball rolling for you and help you start to rebuild that life. Rebuild a happy, fulfilled life. Thank you for watching. And if you're an engineering student, I can help you even more. Top link in the description below. See you later. Bye-bye.